During the first quarter of a century of the atomic age, the United States has moved from a position of atomic monopoly to one of nuclear stalemate. The early post-World War II dream of push-button warfare has given way to the persistent reality of conventional war. In all post-World War II American military engagements, the ground forces have continued to play the major combat role. To meet the prodigious demands of our combat forces for all types of ground and air munitions, the United States Army Ammunition Procurement and Supply Agency, APSA, at Joliet, Illinois, a subordinate agency of the United States Army Munitions Command, manages 26 industrial plants which perform a wide variety of tasks. The manufacturing of metal parts such as mortar and artillery shells, the manufacturing of propellants and explosives, and the loading, assembling, packaging, and shipping of completed end items to depots and users all over the free world. Five of the 26 plants are engaged in manufacturing a wide variety of metal parts, ranging from 81 millimeter mortar to 175 millimeter artillery shells. You're looking at a 155 millimeter artillery shell production line located at the Twin Cities Army Ammunition Plant and operated under APSA's overall direction by a private industrial contractor. During this typical industrial steel manufacturing process, a cold billet of steel is made into an artillery shell body. These empty shells are processed into functioning rounds through the addition of APSA-produced explosives at the APSA loading, assembling, and packaging plants. Due to rigid safety requirements, these plants cover thousands of acres. 6 of them are engaged in the manufacturing of propellants for small arms, mortar, artillery, rockets, and explosives for mortar, artillery, rockets, mines, grenades, and bombs. This panoramic view of the Joliet plant gives a good idea of the physical size of this type of operation. Billions of pounds of TNT have been produced in support of the Vietnam War. The vast majority has been manufactured utilizing a batch process developed during the 19th century. This view of the explosives manufacturing portion of the Joliet plant illustrates once again the sheer size and complexity of this type of operation. Recent technological developments in TNT manufacturing adopted by APSA permit a continuous production line. You're looking at the first of several of these plants installed in the United States. It's located at the Radford Army Ammunition Plant and produces equivalent quantities of high-quality TNT utilizing a fraction of the personnel required in the batch process. A 40% savings in cost per pound has been experienced. This type of TNT plant will become standard in the APSA complex during the 70s. It will significantly reduce the air and water pollution problems associated with the batch process. The remaining 13 plants, such as Twin Cities, are engaged in the loading, assembling, and packaging of small arms, mortar, artillery, bombs, mines, rockets, illuminating and pyrotechnic items, fuses, small components, and propellant charges. Billions of rounds of small arms ammunition are produced annually. Other APSA loading plants produce a wide variety of items. For example, at Joliet, 105 millimeter shells are moving down the production line. Here, the empty shell bodies received from the metal parts plants are loaded with APSA-produced explosives, packed and shipped to the users. At the same plant, we see a modern automated 40 millimeter cartridge line in operation. It's our goal that all of the APSA loading plants will undergo a wide range of modernization similar to this example in the 70s. At the Lone Star plant is another example of an automated production line. The introduction of this automated floating fixture fuse line has resulted in lower costs, higher production, and less personnel exposure. Pyrotechnic munitions items play a very important role in night combat operations. Here at the Longhorn Army Ammunition Plant, parachutes are being packed into illuminating shells. 85% of the illuminating shells utilized in Southeast Asia have been produced at Longhorn. cluster bomb units, commonly referred to as CBUs, are loaded at the Kansas plant for Air Force use. Like the Navy and the Marine Corps, the Air Force is a multi-million-dollar customer of APSA. This bomb loading line at the Cornhusker Army Ammunition Plant is being operated in support of the Air Force. Propellant charges for mortar and artillery ammunition are loaded and assembled at APSA's Indiana plant. Many and varied are the industrial operations performed at these government-owned contractor-operated plants, the backbone of the Army's production capability. They're supported by approximately 475 private industry producers of ammunition components located in the United States and Canada. Every fiscal year, small business firms are awarded millions of dollars worth of business from APSA and GOCO contractors. To enhance this program, representative samples of items normally procured are displayed. This display gives potential producers an opportunity to see and examine the construction and configuration details involved, and to compare these requirements with their manufacturing capability. The remarkable resiliency of this manufacturing team may be highlighted by a few brief statistics. During fiscal year 1965, the APSA procurement program amounted to $556 million. This program was supported by 11 active GOCO plants, which employed 19,000 operating contractor personnel. During the peak production year of fiscal 1969, a procurement program of $3.8 billion was supported by 25 active GOCO plants and activities, employing over 121,000 workers. Some idea of the scope of APSA procurement and production operations may be gained when one realizes that the APSA fiscal year 1969 budget, expressed in conventional commercial terms, made APSA the 10th largest industry in the United States that year. A correspondingly dramatic increase in ammunition tonnages shipped to Southeast Asia took place during the same time period. In fiscal year 1965, for instance, shipments from Army depots and the GOCO plants averaged 10,000 tons per month. By September 1968, a high of 118,000 tons per month was achieved, most of it being shipped by highway or rail to the ocean terminals. In many critical cases, shipments were made by air directly from the loading plants to the users both at home and abroad. Through intensive computerization and the application of the most modern business management techniques, APSA has been successful in maintaining the highest standards of inventory, maintenance, quality assurance, and transportation control over its worldwide operations at the lowest possible costs. A vigorous resource conservation program produces millions of dollars in savings every year. Through the maintenance of customer assistance and liaison offices at APSA and in Southeast Asia,